Talk, music, get it all.
24 hours.
On West Africa Democracy Radio.
94.9
FM Dakar.
WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar and Monrovia, 7 p.m. in Cotonou. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. First, our top stories. Ghana launches electronic visa system and waives visa fees for African nationals.
All holders of African passports traveling to Ghana will apply for visas exclusively via the new online e-visa platform, and they will pay no visa fee.
Côte d'Ivoire repatriates over 200 citizens from Tunisia after failed migration attempts. Reactions trail President Tinubu's victory as APC presidential candidate for 2027 elections.
Said you are going to do indirect primaries. Why are most of your members complaining that materials did not get to their centers?
Outcomes are decided before delegates even vote.
Insecurity disrupts preparations for Tabaski celebrations in Mali. Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Augustine Bill Coley.
Thank you for joining us. We begin in Ghana, where President John Dramani Mahama has officially launched the country's electronic visa portal as part of efforts to modernize its immigration system. The new platform is designed to streamline visa applications, reduce processing delays, and improve travel facilitation for visitors entering Ghana. President Mahama said the launch is also expected to boost tourism, strengthen border management, and enhance Ghana's digital transformation agenda in public service delivery. In a major announcement, the Ghanaian leader revealed that visa fees for all African travelers entering Ghana had been abolished.
So today's launch is just building on the foundation of what we started. The electronic visa system, or e-visa, will allow travelers from all around the world to apply for visas online. They would upload the supporting documents electronically and make their secure digital payments and receive travel authorization in their emails or on their phones. The e-visa platform is fully integrated into Ghana's API PNR architecture and is linked to international crime and watch list databases, enabling a comprehensive background check before visas are issued. Let no one misunderstand Ghana's openness and hospitality as a relaxation of our national security obligations. While Ghana will continue to warmly welcome citizens from across the world, every entry into the Republic will remain subject to stringent security screening and established immigration protocols. And so, ladies and gentlemen, effective today, from this moment, all holders of African passports traveling to Ghana for business or tourism will apply for visas exclusively via the new online e-visa platform, and they will pay no visa fee.
Ghanaian President John Mahama speaking at the launch of the country's e-visa portal system. Elsewhere, more than 200 Ivorian migrants have returned home from Tunisia after years of hardship and failed attempts to reach Europe. A total of 243 men, women, and children arrived in Abidjan over the weekend aboard a special repatriation flight organized by the governments of Côte d'Ivoire and Tunisia. According to the Directorate General for Ivorians Abroad, the returnees are currently being housed at a reception center in Abobo before reuniting with their families across the country. Imo Edit tells us more.
Many describe extremely difficult living conditions in Tunisia, particularly in the city of Fax. Some said migrants were regularly chased away by police, with shelters destroyed and belongings burned. Officials say many migrants are returning with disappointment after leaving home in search of better opportunities in Europe. Mamadou Sakho of the Directorate General for Ivorians Abroad said families had placed great hopes in them, making their return especially emotional. Authorities are now encouraging young Ivorians to consider local opportunities in training and employment rather than risking dangerous, irregular migration routes. However, some migrants express happiness at their return after spending years in Tunisia. According to the International Organization for Migration (IOM), nearly 8,700 Ivorian migrants have voluntarily returned home between 2002 and 2025, with one-third coming back from Tunisia.
Imo identified that report away from migration issues, signs of a gradual reconciliation between ECOWAS and the Confederation of Sahel States AES are emerging across West Africa. These signs follow a series of diplomatic initiatives held recently in Lomé, Dakar, and Cotonou. Regional experts describe the move as a new path opening up, while regional officials continue discussions behind the scenes. Veronique Njai tells us more.
In Lomé, officials from Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger met informally with representatives of ECOWAS under the mediation of Togolese leader Faure Gnassingbe. The talks focused on creating a future framework for cooperation between the two regional blocs, particularly in the areas of security, trade and regional integration. Burkina Faso's foreign minister said the AES remains open to dialogue, stressing the importance of preserving stability and prosperity for the people of West Africa. Meanwhile, in Dakar, Senegal's foreign minister Cheikh Niang told lawmakers that Senegal has a strong chance of assuming the rotating presidency of ECOWAS once the mandate of Sierra Leonean President Julius Maada Bio comes to an end in the coming weeks. Minister Niang said Dakar intends to use the role to help manage regional crises, especially the situation in Mali. In Cotonou, newly inaugurated Beninese President Romuald Wadani also called for stronger regional cooperation in the face of growing security threats in the Sahel. Speaking during his inauguration ceremony, Wadani said countries in the sub-region are destined to work together against terrorism and instability. The latest development comes after months of strained relations, border closures and diplomatic disputes between some ECOWAS states and AES members. However, observers say shared economic and security interests are now pushing both sides towards renewed dialogue and practical cooperation aimed at ensuring regional stability and protecting the interests of West African populations.
A report filed by Veronique Njai.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Well, now let's focus on some political developments. First, in Senegal, where the political crisis has taken another dramatic turn. Following the dismissal of Ousmane Sonko from the position of Prime Minister, the President of the National Assembly has also announced his resignation. El Malik Njai, a close ally of the now former Prime Minister, said he made a decision after deep reflection. Ousmane Sonko is also expected to be reinstated tomorrow Tuesday as a Member of Parliament. However, according to Senegalese political analyst Malo Kanté, this situation could trickle an institutional crisis in Senegal.
What is clear is that the president could indeed face difficulties in setting up a government, since there is still a risk of vote of no confidence. However, he can always try to manage this situation, given that he himself, as prime minister, went 9 months without setting foot in the parliament. So, we assume that the next prime minister could also play this game, meaning trying to play for time, so that the president, in any case, he has the option between now and December to dissolve the National Assembly, which will allow him, of course, at least if the majority changes sides, to be able to govern in complete tranquility.
Senegalese political analyst Malo Kanté this speaking. In Nigeria, reactions continue to trail the outcome of the All Progressive Congress primary, which produced Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the party's candidate for the 2027 general elections. The APC claimed the exercise demonstrated overwhelming nationwide support for the president. However, some Nigerians and political analysts have questioned the credibility of the figures released, arguing that the process did not reflect a genuine consensus within the party. WDR's correspondent Yechenu Sasetu reports.
President Bola Tinubu emerged winner of the APC presidential primary after securing 10.99 million votes in the nationwide exercise conducted across party wards and states ahead of the 2027 general elections. Party officials described the primary as peaceful and transparent, saying the outcome reflects broad support for the president within the ruling party. However, reactions from some Nigerians suggest growing concerns over the process.
Some of the parties have complained about money politics. Some of the parties have complained about them being sidelined.
Outcomes are decided before delegates even vote.
Sometimes it's based on who is the highest bidder because monies get to exchange hands.
I think it's coronation.
Public affairs analyst Peter Ame questions the large voting figures announced by the party, describing the numbers as unrealistic and difficult to verify.
Even for elections that will determine the lives and the trajectory of the leadership of this country, voter turnout has been on average of 30% to 35%. Cannot now come to internal party issues where the level of poverty has increased, the out-of-pocket expenditure has increased because of transportation has exacerbated the cost of living. So you can't come to this level and tell me that the party has 90% of membership turnout drive. This is not true. This is not the reality.
He adds that transparency remains essential in any democratic process.
You have said you are going to do indirect primaries. Why are most of your members complaining that materials did not get to their centers? Why are we not seeing the list of your registered voters being pasted at each of the collation centers? Because election comes with transparent process. Without transparency, you can't have accountability.
The All Progressive Congress presidential primary remains one of the major political developments shaping conversations ahead of Nigeria's 2027 general elections. President Tinubu, during his acceptance speech, called on Nigerians and party members to remain united ahead of the 2027 general election, describing the poll as a critical moment for Nigeria's democratic development. For WADR, Yechenu Sasetu in Abuja.
Meanwhile, in Benin, a new administration has been constituted. Just hours after being sworn in as the new president, Romuald Wadani unveiled the composition of his government. The new cabinet, which reflects both continuity with the era of former President Patrice Talon and the arrival of French technocrats, is expected to inject new energy into public administration. With expectations running high among Benin's citizens, what message does this new government lineup send, and how could these appointments shape the country's development agenda in the years ahead? Abdullahi Hassan tells us.
Benin's new government is made up of 21 ministers and 3 deputy ministers, with 8 members of former President Patrice Talon's last administration retaining key positions. Yvonne Dechenu remains Minister of Justice and now ranks first in the protocol order, while Bernard Dato keeps the sports portfolio. Veronique Tognifode stays in charge of family affairs, and Reli Adam Sule Zumaru returns to head the communication ministry, a position she previously held before the portfolio was dissolved. Meanwhile, Olusegun Ajadi Bakari hands over the Foreign Affairs Ministry to Corinne Amori Brunet and now takes charge of tourism and private investment promotion. The retention of several experienced officials is seen as a sign that President Romuald Wadani wants to preserve administrative continuity and avoid major disruptions in public policy implementation. Another notable appointment is Aristide Medonu, the former Director General of the Economy, who has been promoted to Minister of Economy and Finance. He will now work alongside 3 deputy ministers responsible for finance, budget, and external resource mobilization and debt management. Analysts say the appointments reflect the new administration's determination to maintain Benin among sub-Saharan Africa's fastest-growing economies, with International Monetary Fund IMF projecting growth above 7% in 2025. Another major development is the creation of a ministry dedicated to the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy, highlighting the government's focus on innovation and digital transformation. President Wadani himself has acknowledged that one of the government's immediate priorities is ensuring that economic growth translates into better living conditions for ordinary Beninese families who are now waiting to see the new team in action.
Abdullahi Hassan with that explainer. We now reflect on the African continent as Africa marks 63 years since the first Africa Day. The continent has been urged to embrace unity and again at a critical turning point in global affairs. The call by the Open Society Foundations comes at a time when insecurity, political instability, and economic pressures continue to slow development across parts of the continent. From trade and debt negotiations to critical minerals and youth empowerment, the organization says Africa must speak with one voice as global power dynamics rapidly shift. Stay with us because details of this development will come up during the guest interview. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Ghana launches electronic visa system and waives visa fees for African nationals. Cote d'Ivoire repatriates over 200 citizens from Tunisia after failed migration attempts. Reactions trail President Tinubu's victory as APC presidential candidate for 2027 elections. Still ahead in the news, insecurity disrupts preparations for Tabaski celebrations in Mali. We also have guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. We are streaming live on YouTube at WADR and on Facebook, WDR English Service. In the Central Sahel region, particularly in Mali, preparations for Tabaski are ongoing under difficult circumstances. Insecurity along several of the country's main roads. It's implicating the transport of livestock to Bamako, while the rising cost of living is shrinking families' purchasing power. In the capital's livestock markets, both sellers and buyers say they are feeling the effects of this crisis just days away from the holiday. Christopher, our teacher, reports.
At the Lafiabogu livestock market, dozens of sheep are tied up in open-air pens. Under the intense heat, discussions heat up between sellers and potential buyers, with the latter judging the prices to be too exorbitant.
The sheep are very expensive compared to last year. Those that were sold for 150,000 CFA francs are now going for 200,000 CFA francs or even more. But we understand that there are economic difficulties. Those who transport the livestock tell us that they are facing constraints on the road.
For their part, the sellers explain that this price increase is due to the rising cost of transport and livestock feed.
We receive many customers, but we are unable to agree on the prices. They do not have enough money to buy certain sheep that are expensive. That is the whole problem. This increase in livestock prices is explained by the rising cost of feed, but also by transport costs. Between Ségou and Bamako, I transported 200 head of sheep for 1 million CFA francs.
For several weeks, the GNIM, the group for the support of Islam and Muslims, has been imposing a blockade on the main road networks. This situation makes it difficult to transport animals to Bamako.
We are facing enormous difficulties on the roads. To get to Bamako, we are forced to go through Kolikoro in order to avoid the fire forest. This scares us. Some of us had to stay behind because the roads are no longer safe.
Just 2 days away from Tabaski, uncertainty looms over the livestock market in the Malian capital. This year, holiday preparations are being shaped by a climate of economic and security hardships.
Aliyu Cham's report from Bamako, presented by Christopher Aticho. Regarding health issues, Liberia has moved swiftly to calm public fears over the Ebola outbreak. This follows after an order recording claiming that suspected Ebola patients were being treated at the country's main referral hospital, sparking anxiety across Monrovia. The incident has raised fresh concerns about misinformation and public panic in a country still haunted by memories of the deadly 2014 Ebola outbreak that claimed thousands of lives. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Ibrahim Parker reports.
The Liberia National Police has now launched an investigation after a woman identified as Paula Bitel, believed to be a nurse, was arrested for allegedly spreading what officials described as false and misleading information. According to health authorities, Bitel was turned over to the police by the Ministry of Health after an audio recording circulated widely on social media alleging that 5 suspected Ebola cases were being treated at the John F. Kennedy Medical Center. In a joint statement, Liberia's Ministry of Health, the management of JFK Medical Center, and the National Public Health Institute of Liberia strongly denied the claims and reassured the public that Liberia has now recorded any confirmed Ebola case. The case has drawn national attention due to Liberia's painful history with the Ebola epidemic between 2014 and 2016, during which more than 4,800 people died in the country. Meanwhile, a Liberian medical doctor and former head of the National Public Health Institute of Liberia, Dr. Christopher Dukbayan, has assured Liberians not to panic but to remain vigilant in protecting their families.
There is no Ebola outbreak in Liberia. With rumors or without rumors, just continue to practice the necessary public health measures that we have put in place all along, from the very first time of Ebola in 2014 to COVID-19 to Mpox.
Health officials say Liberia's surveillance and emergency response systems remain active as neighboring countries continue monitoring outbreaks of infectious diseases across the region. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
And now Africa is facing growing insecurity, political instability, and economic pressures which continue to slow developments across parts of the continent. As part of an effort to address these challenges, the continent is being urged to embrace unity once again at a critical time in global affairs. The core by the Open Society Foundation scams as Africa marks 63 years since the first Africa Day. Our guest is Desiree Azogbafi, Advocacy Advisor for Africa at the Open Society Foundations.
Africa is at a very important moment in history, and this is because now we are seeing every day the huge change that is happening in the world. Big powers are competing for more influence. They are now fighting for more trade, and most importantly, technology and natural resources. And talking about natural resources, need for technology, and the green transition, you agree with me that Africa is in the center of that discussion. And Africa has, in addition to that, we do have the youngest population in the world. 60% of Africans have 25 years old. So we have a huge natural resource deposits. We have a growing market. And that's why basically I can say at this particular moment, Africa is in a very important moment. And if we don't take advantage of it, we will kind of replay the same history that we had before, especially during the colonization time.
What lessons are there for Africa to learn from past free market policies pushed by global institutions?
So one important lesson is that a market alone cannot develop a continent. For many years, African countries were told to privatize everything, to reduce the role of government and states, and open the market very quickly to the rest of the world. In many cases, this has weakened local industry and made the continent more dependent on exporting raw material only. And it has not given us any advantage to develop.
What role can the African Union, AU, and the African Continental Free Trade Area play in strengthening Africa's bargaining power?
Today, we know that alone, many African countries are too small economies. So we need to put our strength together. So together, Africa will become a very powerful market. Again, once the free trade area become truly operational, and on that, I must say that we still have some way to go. It's not happening the way we expect for it to happen. For example, we are still struggling with free movement of people, goods. If people cannot move within the continent, we won't be able to trade. So the free trade area looks very good on paper, but we need to be very courageous, to make it happen. So I believe the EU can also help countries to defend common position on many issues. We have seen it happening already on debt. It's happening on climate issues. Where it's not yet happening is on the management of our natural resources. We do have very interesting frameworks already adopted. Our countries now need to walk the talk.
In practical terms, Desiree, what should African leaders prioritize over the next decade to achieve real transformation? I, for one, will point at security. Can you tell us more?
Given the current states of the continent, I can imagine at least 4 main priorities moving forward, thinking about the next 10 years. So the first thing will be to create a job. And how to do that? We need to prioritize industrialization. Second, we need to address the security issues. And if you look at the way we have been addressing security issues, we need to rethink it. We need to look at the root causes. That means we need to address extreme poverty. We need to address injustice. We need to better manage the diversity within the continent. Now, number 3, we need to reinforce democracy, respect our constitution, and protect freedom. The 4th one, we need to improve how we govern our institution, how we govern our communities, how we fight corruption, so that public goods are fairly distributed among our communities.
Desiree Asugbafi is the advocacy advisor for Africa at the Open Society Foundations. And in sports, the semi-final lineup for the Total Energies CAF Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2026 has been confirmed after a dramatic day of quarter-final action on Sunday. Hosts Morocco will face Senegal in a heavyweight last-four tie, while Egypt will meet Tanzania at the race for the continental titles enters in decisive stage. All 4 semi-finalists had already secured qualification for the FIFA Under-17 World Cup by reaching the quarterfinals. But Sunday's matches decided which teams will continue their push for the African crown. Morocco kept their title hopes alive with a narrow 1-0 win over Cameroon at the Mohammed VI Football Complex in Sali. They will now face Senegal, who survived a red card, a late Mali equalizer, and a penalty shootout to reach the last 4. The Young Lions of Teranga beat Mali 4-2 on penalties after a 1-1 draw in a tense quarter-final. On the other side of the draws, Tanzania continued their remarkable campaign by beating Algeria 4-3 on penalties after a trailing 3-0 draw. They will face Egypt, who produced the most convincing quarter-final performance by beating Cote d'Ivoire 4-1. The semi-finals will be played on Thursday, May 28 at the Moulay El Hassan Stadium in Rabat. The winners will advance to the final on Tuesday, June 2, while the losing semi-finalists will contest the third-place match on Monday, June 1. And that's the latest in the world of sports. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa, Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Thank you for listening. And many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudo Ju for the technical support. Do interact with us via our social media platforms, X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Augustine Curley. Good evening.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Graft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.